right, so we're just catching the last of the mist of the morning. So it's just the fog is starting to blow off, but it was very mystical out earlier this morning. What I'm going to concentrate on today is this little corner pocket right here. And just to give you a little bit of a history, this area had been filled with barberry, which for those of you who may not garden or where it's not native, barberry is very invasive in this area. So one of the first things we did in this garden was take out the barberry. And you can see that this border is a hot mess. And it's a hot mess for so many different reasons. The first reason is you could see that we had extensive deer browse. Buds are just starting on these plants. This is a rhododendron.
Right, and this is some of the stuff they didn't eat.
Yes, because they didn't walk up onto our deck and eat this side, but it's quite sad. We can let it come back. We might take it out completely. This Acer palmatum, look, they sheared it right off. It's crazy. So that's one reason why it's a hot mess, is that the deer browse hit it. The second reason why it's a hot mess is that we didn't get a chance to come in and mulch it. It had a really hard winter. Third reason it's a hot mess, like the grass is encroaching in on it. And I know why he planted this. This is barberry, but we have been seeing it. It's not a really bad invasive here yet, but we have been seeing it popping up in like all parts of this property, and it's because it's a plant that is not native here. People love it because it maintains its leaf structure all year round, which is really nice. You could see it's reverting because it's a red cultivar, and then you see it's reverting back to green.
It's gone. Is it spiky? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's pretty spiky, so that's why I'm like gingerly touching it. But we left the rhododendron PJM. I think it's really beautiful. It gets this nice red burgundy leaf, as you could see, and has these gorgeous stems. You can see that there's lichen starting on these stems, so it looks very fairy tale-like. This whole tree had been maybe about 4 years ago completely decimated by deer. So they ate all the buds, and so I'm happy to see that there's like new growth and it's come back. But I've always loved this kind of stem structure, this multi-stem structure that looks a bit more fairy tale-like. And then we have this Cornus cusa right here that has a very similar tonality to the bark. Very beautiful bark. I always saw this space as like the corner pocket that really looked out onto the land and has a really beautiful view, distant view, which you can't really see right now because it's enshrouded in fog and mist. But I always saw a nice little sneaky path. That's what I call them, the little sneaky informal paths that could go through here. So I had laid stone down, and not really in any kind of thoughtful manner initially, but I retook that stone up not too long ago, and I compacted the earth and laid them again much better. Now all this fragaria, which is wild strawberries, has moved in here. So this is an incredible native ground cover. Now I'm probably going to take some of this out because you could see it's overtaking the lavender. But the concept behind this is that you'd go through the sneaky path, rub up against the lavender, and kind of get that scent. And you can see that I've planted in a couple lavenders in pots as well. And these are totally winter hardy. They subsist and exist through the winter into the spring. All you really need to do in usually the late fall or early spring is just cut the lavender back so it doesn't become too woody. So I actually cut all this back in the late spring. And you could see that this is, you know, the flowers are past bloom here. And then the sunflowers, I didn't plant that. That's like what the chipmunk had planted. I never wanted this to be like a pass-through place. Sonder probably sneers every time I bring a chair home. But I love chairs. There's so many beautiful chairs. And chairs in a garden space really invite you to sit and take a moment to inhale, exhale, and take in the scenery. So I want to be thoughtful about where we put chairs and seats, because that is inviting somebody, including myself or including you, to sit down and take a moment. And I always liked sitting under this tree next to that groundhog right there. The groundhog, he's moving in. Nope, nope. That's the bird food. That was meant for the chipmunks and the birds, but of course our groundhog gets a little cheeky and moves in on it. So this little space used to be barberry. I wanted to have a seating space and a place where people could really take in the scenery. I loved sitting under this tree. There's a hummingbird feeder in there, and the hummingbird always likes to dance around it. So it's a fun experience to really smell the lavender, see the view, hear the hummingbirds, and also see the bees. Now, a lot of this lavender is past bloom, but the nepetella and the nepeta is coming up. The blue flowers, blue purple flowers are balloon flowers, and that just is really a nice experience as well. Other things have moved in, like this erigeron, and I'm just kind of leaving it. It does get a little weedy over here, but I think I'm gonna keep the Fragaria, and I might have to add a bit more stone. So you can see that I've had more of a gravel garden here. There's very little substrate or soil, and that's good for Mediterranean plants like lavender because it requires really good drainage. But I always had this chair here, and it wasn't anything special, but it was nice. You know, this view right here, I would always take a photo, and that chair looked pretty nice in there, but I don't know, it just didn't have the character. And then I found these faux bois. It's kind of a weird word. It's a French word. So it's spelled very differently. If it's Faux bois. So it's not really pronounced how it would be spelled if it was in English. And it's really an art that originated, to my knowledge, out of France, which is why it's a French word. So traditionally they would use a cement, and they would just basically make it look like fake wood, which is what that means, is like fake wood. And this one happens to be made out of iron, so it's a lot, it's weather resistant, but it's also just a lot lighter. So you'd imagine if you're using something that is like concrete or like a cement, it's very heavy. But this one, I thought, wow, this is great. And it had a little table too, so I was like into that type of thing. So yeah, so I basically just envisioned a little seat right around here in between the lavenders, and just something that really sits in to the surrounding. And it's okay even if the tree pushes up against it and it looks like it's just been there for ages. And I probably have to get one of those levels and level it off, because I feel like this is kind of leaning this way. But these are two really beautiful, like I said, planters. They're completely outdoor worthy, so I just leave these out during the winter. And all of this that has grown up has basically come back from what we had. Initially, I thought having a little table here, but this table's far too big. I figured we'll put the table behind, like a little room. And this is like a total wildlife haven. I mean, I have lots of little dishes of water for insects and birds. But what I'd like to do here is just put some of the plants that I recently got and host them out here. So it almost looks like a little room setup. So I'm going to do that really quickly. And if you recall, I actually brought in a couple plants, more than a couple, but these ones. This is Peperomia dalstedtii. So these are not hardy. Like the lavender is hardy. I could leave that out. I'm in a grow zone 5-6. This is a subtropical plant. So I'm doing this in August right now. We're probably going to start getting freezing temperatures in, I would say, last week of September, first week of October, possibly. But as soon as it dips below 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius at night, these are going to have to come in. So they're only going to enjoy a little time outdoors. But I really like taking my houseplants outdoors, even if it's just for a little bit of time, because the amount of growth that they experience is like astronomical. So I'm just using a cactus mix because, again, these plants require a little bit more drainage, especially if they're outside, because then they're exposed to the elements like rain, which I don't know if we're going to get any this week. And I got these two beautiful planters. I should show this to you up close. This one I got from Terrain and still has some schmutz on it. But look at the little scalloped oyster mushrooms on it. I thought that was so beautiful. Kind of goes with like the woodlands, fairy tale setting that we have out here. So I figured pop this in. Look how beautiful that looks, right? So I'm going to do that. And then this one is Dischidia parasitica. And Dischidias and Peperomia both don't have any kind of beautiful flowers or anything of that nature. It's all about the leaves. It's all about the foliage. It's all about the growth form. So I figured we'll put like the Dischidia in here and see how it looks. So I might actually put some of the bonsai mix in here as well as part of the substrate. The roots come out a bit more over here. Yeah, I've been really enjoying just creating these little moments and these little spaces for myself and others to enjoy. It just reminds you to like just take the time and really have an experience with nature and to sit and listen to the bird song and just come down from the day. Maybe look for the chipmunk in the tree. Come on, Sippy. I brought the bonsai mix out because I wanted to use it as a topper, and I recently put this here. The birds seem to like to eat the sempervivums that I've been planting. So we'll see if any of those survive. They're called live forevers, but they were used as food. So it's interesting to see that the birds will eat them as well. And I think that because they're nice and succulent and hold a lot of water. And probably nutritious. Now you want to lightly press the substrate down here because you'll find there's like quite a lot of air pockets in here. And if you don't like press it down, then you'll realize like once you water it in that you'll have like almost no soil. It'll be like halfway down. You'll be like, where did the soil go? And it's just that you didn't press it down all this way. So there's a lot of room in this one because it kind of billows out like a pear. And so I'm gonna make sure I fill in extra here. And then I'm gonna come in with a little bonsai mix, even though you won't be able to see it as much, but I really think this is a beautiful mix. It's basically like puffed clay and shale, and you can see what it looks like when it's dry and a little bit what it looks like when it's wet. It just gets really nice and dark. And this doesn't expand or anything. It's already fully expanded. So oftentimes what they do is it's very lightweight comparatively. So what they often will do is, even with like a perlite or a vermiculite, is they'll put it under intense heat. And then it basically puffs out, almost like, think about like a kernel of corn, and it puffs out to be popcorn when you expose it to heat. But I'm talking about really extensive heat. And on one of my episodes, I talk about how perlite and vermiculite is made. So I'll link to that. But they do the same with kind of this shale and calcinide clay. There we go. So let's do that to this top too. I'd like to think that it prevents like the chipmunks from planting sunflowers in this, but that's never the case. I always come in with a few sunflowers in from the season. Or peanuts, because that's what the choice of food is for right now. Okay, so here we go. Put that down. I love this planter, it's so gorgeous. The light is just hitting this table right now too. So I'm thinking like something like this and maybe something like that. And then maybe having another little thing right there. I don't know the plant yet, but it looks so cute. And again, if you have all these little details, it's just something that maybe someone will come by and appreciate it, or you can appreciate it. You're taking care of something that's gorgeous. I'm sure the birds will start using this as a place to prop themselves. But yeah, and if you're out here gardening and you want to set your drink down, you have a table, you have a shelf space, anything along those lines. Look at the cornice, it's starting to get their little fruits. So these are all little fruits. So you have a flower and a bract, that big showy white bract, and the inflorescence is on the inside, all the little inflorescences. So this is what it turns into, is all these little fruits kind of congealed together. So yeah, I mean, take a look at it from this way. This direction is always my favorite. And then just having a place to sit like this. Enjoy your tea in the morning with the sun coming up over the head, over the big oak, and the distant views or the fog in the morning lifting. But this is so comfortable. Feeding the chipmunks. This is what it's about. It's having this, this moment and this space to really enjoy what you're creating together and what you're experiencing out in nature. I really, really love it. So this is this little room. And hopefully when we give a little garden tour in the coming weeks, people could get to share and experience these moments as well. So love this little chair. I think it translates really well with the wood around this. So yep, there you have it. We'll be sharing how the gardens and wildscaped areas mature as the seasons progress, so if you enjoy videos like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button to help us grow and share these videos to more folks. In the meantime, we'll be cracking away at more of the gardens and renovations here at Flock. We'll see you in the next video.